welcome back. Tiffany here. If you're new to the channel, then I hope you enjoy your stay and consider subscribing. Today I've got a little bit of history and a little sit down, like story time, about my journey with an autoimmune disorder. Let's just jump right in. About 11 years ago now, I started having some health issues that kind of cropped out of nowhere. And I was 22-ish at the time when all of this started, and I was having a lot of joint pain and extreme fatigue, like could not stay awake at work. I worked not really an office job, but I had an office at the job I was at, and I would find myself falling asleep in front of the computer, like not able to hold my eyes open. I actually kept, I remember this because I'm slightly like type A personality. I remember I kept a sleep log of how many hours I slept in a day, and it was a lot. There were days where I was sleeping 18 hours. My overnight sleep added in with like multiple naps through the day. My body just felt foreign to me. And so I had been seeing the doctors, went to many specialists. At first they thought I had rheumatoid arthritis because of all the joint pain. I didn't. They put me on medication for that and it didn't help. And then they thought I might have lupus because I was showing symptoms of like an autoimmune flare-up, but it wasn't lupus. Eventually it came down to me doing a lot of research online, and I stumbled across something called Behçet's disease. And the more I read about it, the more I realized that they were describing me to a T. And so I printed off this information, and I was that person that went into their doctor like, this is what I found on the internet, and you know, expect your doctor to look at you like you're crazy. All the symptoms matched. And the thing about Behçet's disease is that it's very rare. It's rare in the United States. It's rare in females. My doctor wasn't even really familiar with it. And so as we were researching this together, I had been sent to a dermatologist to do a biopsy on some skin lesions that I was getting on my leg, and then he kind of went through my medical history, and he had heard of Behçet's because he had one other patient in his entire career who had that. Vasculitis, which is like swelling of the blood vessels anywhere in your body. So wherever your blood vessels are, a lot of patients present with vasculitis, and that was the weird rash that I was getting on my legs that they had biopsied. And so he was familiar with this. Finally, I felt like I was on the road to having answers. They officially diagnosed me with Behçet's disease, and at this point, it had been about 8 to 10 months of random testing, medications. I had been put on pain medicines for all of the joint pain, anti-inflammatories, steroids. When I finally got my diagnosis, I was put on a pretty severe like course of immunosuppressants. One of the more severe symptoms that I got then and still presents itself now is that I get swelling in my eyes. And so as you can imagine, when you get inflammation in your eyes, it puts a lot of pressure, and that can actually lead to blindness. Back when I was getting diagnosed, I had some of those symptoms, so I had seen an eye doctor and they just treated the symptoms. They gave me a steroid drop and they treated the symptoms and it went away. Well, I remember when my husband and I got married, we were leaving for Florida for our honeymoon, and this was in 2010. My vision got real blurry just really quickly. So I went to the eye doctor and I had to order new contacts. Well, my vision had changed 1.25 in one eye and like 0.75 in the other. They had gotten worse. And it was because of this inflammation had presented itself in my eyes. That right there was like a slap in the face, like holy cow, this inflammation really does long-term severe irreversible damage to my eyesight because it never went back. Anytime now, if I notice my vision is getting blurry, if the eyes are like tender, you know, like when you rub your eye, like touch your eyelid, it's tender to the touch. I know to get into the eye doctor immediately because typically that means that there's a flare up in the back of my eye. It's uveitis and it puts pressure. The last time I got it really, really bad was when we first moved to Kentucky, and we had moved here in July, and in August or September, I got a really bad inflammation in my eye, and it lasted in one eye about a month, and as soon as that side started clearing up, it switched to the other eye. I was miserable. I just remember spending a ton of free time, well, downtime rather, not free time, in my room in the dark. I was watching TV, like I went through Netflix like crazy during that time. I think I watched like the entirety of Gossip Girl, and there's a ton of seasons. This is just what stands out to me. It was hard to be in bright lights because we couldn't get the inflammation to go down. So my ophthalmologist was actually having me dilate my eyes at home. When the eye was dilated, it was relieving some of the pressure, and then I would put steroid drops in to help like with the inflammation. So I was dilating my eyes at home, and if you've you've ever had your eyes dilated, you know how bright the lights are. Like you shouldn't drive. Walking outside in the sun, it just kills. It's painfully bright. So I spent a lot of time in the dark in my bedroom, and I was kind of useless to my family. And that went on for about a month and a half or 2 months by the time it was fully cleared up. So that's the last time I got it really badly. Another symptom that presents itself pretty frequently is the joint pain. That has lingered. It comes and goes, and it presents itself in different ways. A lot of times I will get like even the joints in my fingers and in my toes just ache. And so I take a lot of Motrin and anti-inflammatories, which are not good for your liver because your liver is processing all of that. So I need to really watch what I take. That's the only thing that helps with the inflammation. My knees sometimes ache. The last few months I've been dealing with some pain in my, not my hip, kind of like in my butt cheek region, as weird as that sounds. So I'm currently actually seeing a doctor for that. He put me on muscle relaxers and Motrin when I saw him last month. We did some blood work last month because I started getting a lot of the symptoms of my autoimmune disorder, like more than just the aches and pains and like the eyes. I started getting a few like mouth ulcers or like canker sores inside the mouth. That's another symptom that presents itself with Behçet's. I started getting the joint pain, and then the chronic fatigue started creeping back in, where I would wake up from sleeping 8, 9, 10 hours at night, and I would wake up and just have no energy to do anything. And when I went to the doctor last month, they drew my blood, and it did show that I was mildly anemic, and it showed that my inflammation levels had increased. With Behçet's, it's an inflammation thing. Basically, it's my body attacking itself from the inside out. I'm lucky that it doesn't attack my organs, it doesn't attack my brain, because in some severe cases, the inflammation does attack those sort of things, and that can get really severe and that can be fatal. In the grand scheme of things, I'm very fortunate. I have a really weak immune system, as you can imagine. I do tend to get sick easier, and I get shingles a lot, and I get them on my face. It's not like a huge breakout when I get it. Usually it's brought on by stress because my immune system is weakened when I'm under high amounts of stress, weakened more so than it already is. And so I will get breakouts like along my cheek or sometimes my nose area. If you've ever had shingles, you know that it's like a tingly sort of pain. If you haven't had it, it's super, super painful and annoying. It presents itself along nerve paths and typically on one side of the body. In some people, it shows up on the torso, like on your back, but typically one side of the back. I get it on one side of my face whenever I get it. So I'm fortunate in the sense that it's a small breakout, but I am unfortunate in the sense that sometimes it's so close to my eye that it kind of goes right into my eyelid, and that can be really dangerous for my eyesight. So back to the whole like inflammation in the eye. When we moved down here to Kentucky, that 2 months that I had where I was struggling with that inflammation in my eye, it started out as a shingles outbreak. And it was so close to my eye that it kind of went into my eye. Obviously, well, I think, as far as I know, you can't get shingles like on your eyeball, but it was like right into the eye socket. And so it started with that, and then it led to the inflammation in the actual eyeball, and that was the 2 months of struggle that I had. So it's very painful and very frustrating. So I try to catch it early, because if I put like medicine and stuff on it, I can sometimes catch it. Sometimes I can't, and sometimes I have a breakout and I'm walking around with shingles on my face. So yeah, it's kind of hard to hide that. So I tend to stay in the house when that happens. But as I said, I've been very fortunate. It could be a lot worse. I treat the symptoms as they arise. I haven't had a full-blown outbreak where like all the symptoms are present at once, except for recently. It feels like my body started going that way. I'm just now kind of getting some of my energy back, and the joint pain is kind of decreasing a little bit. I take it one day at a time. There's days where I feel really, really down. I woke up this morning and I was really dizzy and lightheaded and just weak overall, like going up our stairs. We have a staircase in our house, we have upstairs, and it's 16 steps. And so by the time I get to the top, my body just feels like, why did you do that to me? And I shouldn't feel that way when I'm walking up a staircase. I'm not that old. So it's just my body. I think that might have something to do with the anemia. I go back in a few days. By the time this video posts, actually, I might have already seen the doctor again. And we're gonna go over my blood work, because my most recent blood draw shows an increase in my liver enzymes. A normal level would be like 0 to 20, and mine's like 250. And there was I think 3 different liver enzymes that are elevated. So I think that's what he wants to talk to me about. And that could just be because I've been on the muscle relaxers and the Motrin and my liver's trying to process all these things, but I don't know for sure. That's just kind of my uneducated Google guess as to what's going on. So I should see soon what's going on with that. I know I've had people ask me about my autoimmune disorder and kind of how that presents itself in my life. So I wanted to make sure that I answered those questions for you. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to drop them down below. I will try to be as transparent and open with you as I can, but I think that kind of covers the basics of it. I'm living with it. It's been in remission for a long time, other than, you know, the shingles and the inflammation and the eye thing, none of which are fun to live with, but I'm fortunate in the grand scheme of things. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this or if you have comments, again, please leave them down below. And until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.